Whenever you move to a new place, the first things you notice are the house, the neighborhood, the people, and the facilities available. But sometimes, in a hurry, people overlook important details. Rushing into a decision can be a grave mistake, and what seems like a small oversight can lead to unimaginable horrors. Today's story is not just a story. It's a terrifying horror experience. It's about a house in Chennai, a house so feared that people hesitate to even pass by it, regardless of the time of day. But Kabir, unaware of its dark history, walked right into its grasp. Kabir worked on a ship and was frequently relocated. His company transferred him to Chennai, and upon arrival he was shocked by the high rent prices. Struggling to find an affordable place, he discovered that the building assigned to him was extremely old, but had surprisingly low rent. The advantage? It was close to both his office and the port. On his first evening there, he noticed something unusual. As soon as dusk fell, all the parents called their children inside, and within an hour the streets were empty. The only person visible was an old man sitting alone, drinking. Kabir, curious, looked again. The man was still there, staring at him and waving. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Kabir decided to go down and check. But just as he was about to leave, his neighbor, Payal, stopped him. "Kabir, where are you going?" she asked urgently. "There's an old man down there waving at me," he replied. Payal rushed to the window and pointed outside. "Look again." Kabir glanced down. The man was gone. A chill ran down his spine. "Maybe he left just now," he murmured. Payal shook her head. "You don't understand. What you saw was not a man, but a wandering soul." She then told him the legend of the Monte colony. In the 19th century, a Portuguese businessman, John de Monte, moved there with his wife Mary and their son. Over time, Mary suffered from mental illness, leading to her tragic death. Shortly after, their son also died under mysterious circumstances. John, left alone, spiraled into despair, drinking heavily and tormenting those around him. When he finally died, his restless spirit refused to leave. Ever since, strange occurrences plagued the colony. At night, people heard distant crying. Those who followed the sound always found John de Monte weeping in the darkness. Fear gripped the residents, forcing them to lock themselves indoors after sunset. Payal warned Kabir, "Whatever you do, never go out in the evening." That night, Kabir resolved to stay inside, but fate had other plans. His phone rang. It was his boss. "Kabir, we have an emergency. Get to the office immediately." "Sir, it's too late," Kabir protested, but his boss refused to listen. Reluctantly, he stepped out at 11 p.m. The colony was eerily silent. Doors and windows were shut tight, but the dim glow of lights confirmed people were inside. As he walked, a rolling bottle hit his foot, a liquor bottle. He quickened his pace, determined to ignore the unsettling feeling creeping over him. Then, he heard it, the sound of crying. His heart pounded. He knew the story. He knew who it was. He kept walking. But then, another sound joined in. Footsteps. At first, they matched his own, but soon they grew louder and faster. Just as he reached his building, a cold hand gripped his shoulder. He turned. An old man stood before him, tears streaming down his face. "You look like my son. Can I stay at your house tonight?" Panic surged through Kabir. He yanked his shoulder free and ran inside, straight to his room. He frantically packed his bags, determined to leave immediately. But then, the rain started pouring outside, trapping him. Alone in his apartment, he listened to the heavy raindrops. But then, another sound emerged, a slow, deliberate drip, as if water was falling inside the room. And then a whisper, "You are my son, aren't you?" Terrified, Kabir spun around. The old man stood there, drenched, his hollow eyes staring. "Say it!" the ghost demanded, its voice rising in fury. Objects around the room began to shake and fall. Kabir was paralyzed with fear. Just then, Loud banging on the door snapped him out of his trance. It was Payal. As soon as the ghost looked toward the door, Kabir seized his chance. He bolted out and collapsed into Payal's arms. She peered inside his apartment. There was no one there, but she knew what had happened. That night, as soon as the rain stopped, Kabir fled to Monte colony forever. Even today, the legend continues. No one steps out after 6 p.m., for John de Monte still wanders the deserted streets seeking his lost son. So, if you ever find yourself in Chennai, near de Monte colony, check your watch, because once the sun sets, you may not be alone.